Good meeting 3 weeks ago, and some of you were here. For those of you who weren't here, in your packet, the first thing you'll see, aside from the agenda, is a 2-page cheat sheet, which is a snapshot of everything we did in 2 hours. And just to highlight for you, we did do a community survey in July and August. We heard from over 400 residents. They told us pretty loud and clear what they wanted. More new books, more DVDs, adult fiction. They wanted more computer access. Some of the features that they mentioned were quiet study areas in the library, comfortable seating. Now that I've done my inventory of your furniture, I can see why that was number 2 on the list. Comfortable seating, and a computer lab came up again. And they noted what your most valuable services were, books, CDs, DVDs, and support of the schools and the technology you provide. The second item on the cheat sheet is the comments that this committee shared at the last meeting and what some of the issues are and why we're all gathered together to talk about improved library services. Now there was a woman who sat here who talked about her 2 children, and she goes to other libraries because she can't have her children's needs met. And she is not a native English speaker, but she spoke at great length about supporting the schools, etc. I'm sorry, she's not here.
She's not here, Vicky. She's not here today.
She's not here, no, I know. We noted that your community doesn't have a bookstore, that you need more materials to support the schools, that there was a desperate need for space for programs, materials, quiet study, computers, and social interaction. And it was Carol, was it Carol, who left behind a long document?
Yes, that was Carol.
And I think you all got a copy of it. It was really very well thought out. It was 5 or 6 pages of her thoughts of what a new library would actually mean for the community. So I tucked some of her comments in here too. To continue your tradition of outstanding service, you must build a new public library. Then if you go to the second page of the cheat sheet, we looked at 3 or 4 comparative studies. We looked at your demographics relative to Temple City, LA County, California, and the United States, and then Temple City 10 years ago. And interestingly, in almost every demographic marker, you're either at the very top or the very bottom. You don't hang in the middle anywhere. So you have the oldest population, the oldest median age of all of those groups, the smallest number of children under 5, most highly educated population, more BA degrees than the rest of the county and the state and the country. Higher percentage, almost 50% of your population is foreign-born, and 62% speak a language other than English in the home. And we talked about that in that some of those markers, like senior citizens, like non-English speakers, change the demands that are placed on a library. Senior citizens are among the highest users of libraries. And because so much of your population speaks languages other than English, and not just one language other than English, but multiple languages represented, there's a burden on the collections to represent all the various groups. And those of you who were here will remember we talked about one single item, which you might, one title, need to have in English, in large print for the seniors, in Spanish and Chinese. In Japanese, you might want to have it as an audio book, and you might want to have it as a downloadable book. So you just bought this one title 9 times, and it's still only one title. And actually somebody asked at the last meeting, downloadable books rank number 8 of all the county libraries. People download books from Overdrive, and Overdrive is the 8th busiest branch. And somebody here said, but is anything available in Chinese? And somebody from the county library emailed, yes. The answer is yes. There are now downloadable books available in Chinese, so that's beautiful. So the second study we looked at a benchmark study. And we took all of the data for Temple City and compared it to other county branches. And very quickly, The average size of a county branch is 0.35 square feet per capita, and yours is 0.21. So you're about half the size of a typical county branch based on the library service population. And because you're half the size, almost all of your other measures are also at about half the size. You have the number of meeting room seats, about half the number of PCs. The collection is 1.14 items per capita, and you have 1.14 and the county average is 2.35. So on all of those markers, the input markers, you're below the county, statewide branches, and the statewide mean. When it gets interesting though is when you look at the output measures where your visits per capita are 6.77 and the state average is 4. So you're more than 50% higher than the state average. Your program attendance is higher even though you have half the number of meeting room seats. Your PC use is high. So if you look at the balance, you're doing a lot more with about half the amount as your peer institutions, which makes the output measures all the more impressive. And says to me, this is a community that desperately needs and wants the library services. The next thing we looked at was a 5-year profile. Where were you 5 years ago and where are you today? About the same number of borrowers. We know the building is the same size. You have the same number of computers. Program attendance is up a little bit. But if you look at visits attendance, 189,000 visits to your library in 2008. Then it went to 205, then it went into 287, 337. Last year, 392,700 visits to the library. So that has more than doubled. That's 250% increase in 4 years. Again, same size building, same number of chairs, same number of PCs, but 250% busier. So the busier also is reflected in people who come to your programs, people who occupy your seats, who spend the day here, people who use your PCs, and people who use your collections. So the last study we did, and I'm just repeating all this to sort of frame the universe that this library sits in. Margaret Todd, the county librarian, said to me, this is one of my busiest branches. This is, I mean, you're the manager, you can confirm that. This is one of the busiest regions, and this is one of the busiest branches in one of the busiest regions. So some time ago, the county library put together what they called minimum planning guidelines. This is kind of what you should be looking at based on your service area population. And 0.5 square feet per capita was a number they landed on. Although the county libraries tend to build smaller than that, and the average is 0.35, 0.35 for you would be almost twice what you have now. So 0.35 would be great if you can't make the 0.5. If you had the 0.5, you'd have a 29,000 square foot building. Items per capita, 2.75 items per capita. You have 70,000. If you had the 275, you'd have 159,000 items. Again, they don't all meet that. The average for the county is around 2.1. So if you had 2 items per capita, you'd still have twice what you have now, and you'd have 100,000 volumes. I also took a look at your holds shelf out here. You have more sections of holds, which means people in the community know that there's 8 million more volumes out there, and they're traveling here. They're using the county resources. And I'm sure you must be one of the highest borrowers for interlibrary loan. Do you all know what this is? I mean, you can go on your computer, search the county library holdings. If a book is in Diamond Bar is a new county library. If a book is in Diamond Bar, if it's in Malibu, trucks drive around the county all night long and deliver the books, and in the morning or 2 days later, your book is going to be out there on the shelf. Or if you happen to work in South Whittier, you can have your book delivered to South Whittier. Or if you know you're going to be in West Hollywood, you can have your book delivered to West Hollywood. So that's one of the benefits to belonging to a county system. It's a tremendous benefit to you. Meeting room seats per capita, the guideline is 2. That would mean you'd need about 116 meeting room seats. And right now you have 65, so you're at 1. Again, it would be about double. And group study rooms, the guideline is 1. You have none, unless I missed it on the tour. None, right, okay. So this was sort of an eye-opener at the first meeting. I mean, it was an eye-opener to me doing the research, and then as we look at it, I think, anecdotally, everyone would say, yeah, this library is really big, yeah, and it's really too small. Well, validated, it really is busy, and it really is too small. And that's pretty much the sum of what we're going to take to the supervisor when we go next month to talk about the needs assessment here. We're going to do some visioning today, but we're going to just kind of briefly go to him and say, this is an incredibly busy location, it's too small, the building doesn't meet the current service model or the user's needs. So the next thing on the agenda is item 3, library service area needs. And I kind of want to continue our conversation from the last meeting. And I highlighted just a couple of groups. If you would, again, pitch in and tell me what you think the service needs are for residents, school children, government agencies, visitors to Temple City, businesses, service organizations, and others. So let's start with residents. Actually, we have a new guest. What do you think the residents of Temple City need from a new library or an improved library?
Me?
Sure. I know you're a library user and you're almost becoming a library friend, right?
Yes.
Good.
Well, let me see. I would think that we would need, have a lot of Asian residents that have families come. So I would think that, maybe books in different languages for them when they come to visit. Maybe some kind of a heritage, information.
The request for collections in multiple languages did come at the last meeting and heavily on the survey. What do you mean by heritage?
Well, the city has a lot of different cultures, and walking around the city, you really get to see it. And I would like to intermingle the different cultures. Maybe it would bring the people more together, as opposed to being separate groups.
That's actually a very good role for coming. Anyone else want to comment? Just sort of the residents as the general. What about meeting spaces? Is there a shortage of meeting spaces in the city? So, yeah, a little bit later I'm going to propose to you what hypothetically a 21,000 square foot library would look like. And I guess that you probably do need meeting spaces for small groups, for mid-sized groups, for programs, presentations. I mean, this is it, this room here. And typically we see in our newer branches, 100-seat meeting room with a kitchenette, storage, high-end audio-visual. So that's a general need for the residents. It seems like it's also a family destination, this library. At least every time I've come here. There's a lot of parent-child interaction out here. And it seems to be designed to accommodate that. What about teens? Teens are residents. What can the library do for you?
I think a lot more programs that are more interesting for us. That'd be a lot better. I mean, right now, there's not really any programs that pop out. Like, just to me, in my opinion, there's not really much to do. Just maybe game nights or something, movie nights, more of that, more fun for the teens. It would really bring them here, and a lot more awareness to them as well. Great.
Do you have a teen advisory board?
We do.
You do? Are you on that?
We have a youth commission in the city. And I'm actually surprised. I thought we were going to have a couple of them here, but we can definitely get some input from them.
Yeah, when we get back to the full-scale detailing, we'll circle back with everybody. What about the schools? How does the library serve the schools here?
You need I teach 4th grade, and I don't think a lot of my students are coming over here to do their homework. They're either going to an after-school program or they're going home. But they're oftentimes, even in 4th grade, where they need to do other research that we don't have.
You can't support.
We don't have materials in our school library. It would be nice for them to be able to come to a public library and get more information about certain local history. As a 4th grade teacher, Temple City's history is what I teach. It's part of California history. Temple City's history is really tied into our curriculum in 4th grade. It would be nice for them to have a place where they could come and get local history that we can use, and it would enrich what we're trying to teach in the classroom, and it would become being able to have that other part of it. I try to bring in as much as I can, but it'd be nice if they could have a place and we could have a store of Temple City history that they could access here.
If anybody has the time, I recommend that you go up to the Sierra Madre Library. They just got a big state grant and they've done a local history storyboard. It's interactive and you touch it and you can touch on the mule and it'll show this whole story of the mule going up the hill, and you can touch on early transportation. And it actually is a project now that's totally managed by teen docents. And it's right inside the library when you walk in the door. Absolutely fantastic. And they've been digitizing their archives. So rather than have all of the print of the archives available to people, it's all on these screens and monitors. It's quite elaborately done. It's very impressed. That's a really good field trip.
I would think, it seems like, well, I grew up in Temple City, right down the street here. And we always came to the library, during the summer. We spent hours here at programs that they have during the summer. And I'd like to see those maybe expanded, like you mentioned, to include teenagers and maybe make this a destination place where children have a place in the afternoon to have a safe place to come and do their homework. And maybe, there are volunteers available who can help with homework. A lot of kids are on their own in the afternoon and they need a little help with homework in the afternoon, and their parents can't help them with some of the homework they have now. And this could be a destination place along the lines of a teen center, but not quite to that extent.
Right.
But a place where it's not just let's go play some games after school, but let's get some help with studies.
Some libraries also help with the college application process and workshops on essays, college essays, particularly if their parents are not familiar with the process.
We were talking today at a meeting I had at the district office about how we can help the district with state government and state programs that we have to do, and a whole part of that is educating the parents, and tying it into the library would be a great way to have like literacy nights for the parents. A lot of parents don't know how to help their children. They don't know how to enrich their studies. They don't know how to enrich their language or even how to read with their child. And that would be a great way to tie into the library, have literacy nights that we can, and break it off into different languages if we had to. And so parents would know, here's how you can help your child. And that would really help support what the kids are doing with us for 6.5 hours a day, and then it would help them improve at home too, even if the parents don't have a great supply of books. There's thousands and thousands of books out here they can check out and enrich their literacy, their children's literacy, and theirs too.
Again, family destination.
Right. Yeah.
So I just sort of wanted to build on what Mrs. Sneak was saying, but we have 2 young school children, both in elementary, and they sort of get recommended a book often by the teacher at an elementary school, and they'll check out something from the Long Bay Library, and they'll go, oh, wow, I really love this author, and then they'll want more books. And then we typically get all those books from the county, because we come here on Saturday, or there's more hours. So, and also, you know, I grew up in kind of a small town in the Midwest, but our library was huge compared to this library. Okay, so the thing that saves this library's bacon is that you can request books from all over the county. So even if our kid wants some difficult to find book, you know, somewhere in LA County they have like 20 copies of this book, and you know, pretty soon we get it. So that is the saving grace of this library, and I think it explains the high visitation numbers. But I just want to give an example of how the school library and this library are sort of complementary, where the child might get introduced to a book by the teacher or a peer at school, and then they say, Mommy, Daddy, I want to get more books like this, and then we go to the library and get them. So they are sort of related in that way, at least this week.
Do you do class visits? Your librarians do class visits? Here or at the school?
We do both.
Oh, good.
Joanna go to visit the school, and also the school kids come here as well as a field trip.
Anyone want to talk about government agencies? I tried to get on the census site, but today it's shut down.
Yeah, they're shut down.
It is shut down, there's no service.
They're not even talking about it.
No.
Actually, I wanted to ask what you mean by that. What do you mean by discussing what kind of government agencies?
Well, for example, I asked Giselle if anybody at City Hall uses the library, if they do research for you. In some cities, for another example of Sierra Madre, the library is the manager of the city's website. In some cities, the library is also the cultural affairs department for the city, or they provide resources for the city. And I think you said that the city doesn't really use the library very much.
No, not very much.
Yeah.
You know, the city is in the process of launching a new website in November. And it's actually a very cutting edge, if you will, website as far as city websites go. And it would be the perfect opportunity, and actually I would encourage you to go and speak to Robert Hayworth, or Brian Hayworth, and talk about how you can promote some of the library programs on the city website, because you have to go take a look at it when it comes out in November, but it's very much, there's sections for teens, there's links for the library, but the library could use that tool to promote, like when you have your cooking, or maybe you have a special author month, and that could be promoted on the website too. So I think the new website would be a great opportunity for us to connect with the library and help promote services that are offered here. We know it's at capacity, but it is a good tool.
Yeah. Service organizations. Just finished a project where the Jewish Vocational Services is actually running a job center in the library. But what I'm thinking about is the Friends of the Library. What difference would that make to you? Would you have a store?
Well, so just to give you a real executive summary, micro history. The Friends is a group that basically almost evaporated 2 years ago, and I was brought in to save the group. So when I took it over, the finances were crashing and the membership was crashing, and it really pretty much hit the skids. So we got the revenue straightened out, and the first year I was the president, secretary, and treasurer. The second year we have a full board now, and we're doing a membership drive this fall. So we're serious about turning it around. We have now dependable revenue in the library sale and the snack sale. And but having the full board really makes a big difference, and we're starting to, really, the summer reading program we funded, we supported, we paid for a lot of those events, this 50th birthday that you might have gone to this past weekend. So we're actually a real organization, even though we're kind of a micro organization at this point. But I've turned around organizations before. So I went and looked at what other Friends groups do that work. And I met with the president of the Friends of the Arcadia Library, I went and looked at the Manhattan Beach Library. I talked to people from the West Hollywood Library. I would ask each of them like 50, 75 questions about what works, what doesn't work, what have you tried, what have you not tried, how are you using technology, how are you not using technology, and just to boil it down to a really brief summary, what I found out is that in each case, really the backbone of revenue for these groups is having an ongoing book sale in the library of some form. So in our case, we used to have like a lot of shelves, and then with the remodel we had like almost nothing, and then the county came in and gave us like a new kind of book sale that's quite nice, it's working quite well. But, and I can't stress this enough, libraries like Arcadia or like San Marino or like Diamond Bar that actually raise about $50,000 a year for their library. Now how could they do that? How is that possible? They have an ongoing retail store that's adjacent to the library, part of the library building, separate entrance. And they staff it with volunteers, and they actually earn $40,000 to $50,000 a year. And that money goes into buying books and services and all sorts of events at the library. So if you're planning a new library, like the Diamond Bar Library, or if you take a look at the San Marino Library or the Cerritos Library or any of these libraries where they really planned it out, you'll see that there is a place for an ongoing sale that's staffed by volunteers. It really makes a big difference. Now it's true that in the future not everyone's going to buy books, but you can always sell videos or DVDs or snacks or whatever. The point is, people love to shop for books. Somebody pointed out there's no bookstore in the city. Is that you? So, there is a need for books, and I don't know, maybe I'm strange. I like it when I could buy a book for $2 instead of like $24. It's kind of nice. So, the Friends groups do play a part. And then the Friends members come up with great suggestions for things to do in the library. So, like this past week, we had one of our members give a talk on how to make your home safer. And another member gave a talk on how to create a garden where you can grow edible organic food for yourself. And in addition to being much cheaper than shopping at Whole Foods, this sort of thing gets the community engaged. So that the speaker and people that came to the talk met each other, became like exchanging information. I felt like I was in one of those Hollywood, shows where people are artificially, look kind of too perfect, but they were having a discussion about compost for like 10 minutes, and I was like, this really be happening. But the Friends groups and the library is a real kind of melting pot, kind of like you were saying, where people do come together from different backgrounds and they meet, especially since we have so little floor space and so little furniture, kind of have to meet people. So,
You should call me. I'm actually the president of the West Hollywood Friends. Oh, I don't know who you talked to there, but we do make about $70,000 a year.
Yeah, I was very impressed by your organization.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even know that you were there.
Yeah, well, that's a big room. So.
No, it's not that big a room, but I'll talk to you about it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we were at. I hope that answers your question.
It does. What about businesses? Well, let's talk about what the library can do for businesses, aside from a good library increases property values. And real estate agents like to put the library on the tour. That's the first stop, right?
So we definitely need meeting rooms in order to hold functions here and events and speakers, invited guests. We have, at the chamber, we do have a meeting room that's like 1/3 this size. So that's it that I'm aware of, is this room in the chamber for the public to use.
Wow.
So we're very, very short, and that's, that would right there help a lot. It's badly needed.
What industries are notable here? What's the composition of your chamber?
Oh, it's varies,
Retail?
retail, there's auto repair, restaurants. We have many small businesses,
So,
doctors, dentists, doctors, chiropractors. gosh, we have and residents too. It's on a small scale. Yeah,
You
that
should join
is-
the, you should join the chamber.
We're part of the chamber.
Oh, good.
So how's that for
Perfect.
advice?
Absolutely, absolutely. It seems to me that business use of the public library has declined, except for space, for having meeting space, especially for small businesses. If you have small group study rooms, meeting rooms, free Wi-Fi, a place to park their car, and then come here and use this like their office for the day, and I see that all the time. So that's good. Anyone here want to speak for the seniors? We don't have any seniors here.
We have quite a few seniors with friends, and
Right.
so they actually really like to come in and use the computer, believe it or not,
Mm-hmm.
because they often don't have a computer at home, or if they do one, they don't have the expensive internet access. So here they can catch up on email from relatives or photos. They also like the help they get from the librarian, because a lot of them, computers isn't their first love. And so if there's a librarian that can answer questions, so, how do I read my Yahoo mail, or how do I print out this attachment? It's really helpful for a senior. And then they do like big print books, but I guess the surprise to me is they really like the electronic reader where they can make the font as big as they want. We're loving that.
There were a lot of seniors who answered the survey, a lot.
Yes, a lot of them.
And the one or two of the top were quiet space. And the teen area has better furniture than we do. We'd like more comfortable furniture for the seniors.
Yeah, the seats aren't too soft.
No, they're not. But they did, and there is a certain kind of chair that's better for an older person to be able to get out of chairs with arms. And when you get to that point, the county library is very sensitive to having the right kinds of chairs, which isn't necessarily these kinds of chairs. We'll do better next time, we promise, on the chairs. Sometimes visitors to the community, that I work with a number of communities where maybe it's a tourist attraction, or like Malibu, people at the beach, and then they want to run in and check their email. West Hollywood has more tourists passing through. So we put in banks of quick use internet stations, 15, 20-minute internet stations, because it's quick in and out, check your email and you're leaving. Also, there's a higher level of expectation that the library will be a community information and cultural information center where anybody can stop in and find out what's going on in the community.
Almost like a visitor's.
Almost like a visitor center, exactly. Yeah, with someone who's like a concierge at the desk, because regular users know where everything is. But when you have a lot of users who are one-time users who are just stopping in quickly, they need more information, they need more direction. So that's probably not a big constituency here. Not tourism, no. Did we have a homeschooler at the last meeting?
We have a friend who now is doing homeschool.
There was one, yes.
Yeah, and she spoke about how great it would be, first of all, there were spaces they could use in the library and the computers and places for resources.
I don't know if you covered this in the last meeting, but at the library I grew up with, they had this library in Cerritos, they had this, in addition to having meeting rooms, which are great, they also had like little conference rooms or study rooms where small groups of people or students can meet. And the question would be, where are those rooms? I go to even other libraries, we don't have those rooms in California, I don't know what's going on, but in Cerritos they have them.
Yeah, we have them in a lot of libraries.
Did that come up last time?
I think it did. We talked about collaborative learning and children getting together, and adults, and again with the small business people as well.
In San Marino Library, that has a real good example of meeting rooms, quite a few.
A lot, yeah.
That's a huge library. That's a huge library.
It's a beautiful.
It went from this big to,
Yeah, yeah.
That's why we have to make our library just slightly bigger than that library. Not a lot bigger, just
let us
slightly
go
bigger.
up.
Slightly
It's
nicer.
only 72,000 square feet.
Yeah. It's a nice library.
Parents of young children? I know that's a big group here. And it's something that you do really well now. Your family place, your children's area is designed for young children. And we hope that we would duplicate that and more. But the survey came out, excuse the pun, loud and clear. We want a separate children's library. We want acoustical separation for the children's library. It wasn't just the seniors that said that. Even more so than the teens, they wanted the children's area separated.
Yeah.
So,
Were you here on the 50th anniversary?
No.
So that day I went to the 50th anniversary and I took my daughter for boba, if you know what that is, boba place. And there were some teenagers in there working with books and computers, and they said they first tried to work at the library. With all the 50th anniversary stuff going on, it was too crazy. These are teenagers complaining about the noise in the library. So they're using the coffee shop.
okay. Well, everything that you all are saying is supportive of what the rest of the community said and what the library reports. So I want to do a quick round. I'm gonna say a space, and then I'm going to give you 4 choices. And rather than have you fill out a form, I'm going to do it by a show of hands. Must have it. It would be nice. Not essential, or don't want it. Okay. And there's actually a copy of the list in your packet. And the top one, you can follow along, but we're going to know the results at the end of the lightning round. Okay, we're going to start with art gallery. Must have. Not necessary. Oh, you got it. It should be behind the agenda. Not that one more page. There we go.
Okay.
All right. Art gallery. Who thinks you must have an art gallery?
Wait, give us like a 10-second example.
Of what?
An art gallery.
A space where you can display art, a public gallery.
Yeah, would the art already be there, or are you talking about arranging a show?
You can
or-
decide that later. You can have a permanent gallery, or you can have exhibit space, or you can have the heritage space that she spoke of. It's space. It requires square footage. If you want, are there art galleries, are there other venues for the display of public art by local artists in this city?
I don't think so.
Maybe 2.
Is this
Student art
something that
studios.
would be appropriate to consider in a new library?
Yes.
Okay.
It would be nice to have it.
It would be nice.
Yes. Okay, well, let's start with who thinks it's a must-have? 3 musts. Who thinks it would be nice? 6. Not essential. 2 not essential? Don't include. Browsing collections marketplace. You have a little bit up here, but this is where you walk in and everything is spaced out and it looks like a bookstore. And if you visited any other county libraries recently, it's more fun to browse. There's browsing units, and you got a little bit of it here, but more. It costs space. It costs space to have things face out on low shelves where you can handle them all versus jammed in on stacks. But so marketplace, must have.
That's where you discover new things.
4 would be nice. 6, not essential. No, don't include.
I mean, we're locked in.
A business support center. This would be a small room with some computers, maybe a monitor on the wall, some tables, place of internet, good printer, where somebody who's running a small business could come in and work in there quietly for the day.
Right.
Must have. would be nice. Not essential. Don't include. Cafe. Must have.
There's some food right over
Do you know what,
there.
if anybody goes to Starbucks at like 7 o'clock at night, it's crazy in there. And nobody's having coffee. They've got computers and books and they're studying and
I
they're doing and
know.
they're working and they're, and I mean, it's like you can't go and just have a cup of coffee. I mean, it's
All right, tell me your must have. Who must have a cafe? Would be nice. Not essential. Don't include. Libraries. Anybody that says don't include?
We could have it with the gift shop.
With the gift
You have a
shop.
cafe at the gift shop.
More CDs, more music. Increase the music collections. A must have.
I have a question, before we get into the collections questions, I have a kind of a question for you about this. So, in the future, more things are going digital. So when we're talking about collections, are you talking about physical collections, or are you talking about digital collections?
I'm talking about things that require space right now. So, but that might turn into a download station. So, this was number 2 on the survey, more DVDs and CDs. So let's start with more CDs. I think I saw 3. Would be nice. 6, not essential. Don't include CDs. Well, so far you don't not want to include anything. More children's collections, expand the children's collections. Must have.
I'm going to vote twice for must have. For each one it is.
5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, that's the dark one. Would be nice. 2, not essential. Don't include. More DVDs. Highest circulating item, right? Yeah. 3, must have.
My wife must have.
That's your hand up? Would be nice. Not essential. Don't include. More nonfiction collections. Must have. Would be nice. 4, not essential. Don't include. More international languages. Collections. Must have. 6, 7, 8. Ooh, a new leader. Would be nice. Not essential. Don't include. A community information center. Kind of what we were talking about. Must have. Would be nice. 2, 3. Not essential. Don't include. A computer lab, training lab. Must have.
So you did what I did, which is
Like,
every
by computer lab, do you mean like what's out there now, or do you mean like a museum?
A teaching space. Would be nice. More public computers. Must have. 8 would be nice. Not essential. Don't include. Conference rooms, let's start with medium size. 10, 15, 20 seat conference room.
You're talking about like this, or like a community room? or-
Well, a conference room could be broken down, it could become the training lab, it could be a meeting room, smaller than this, whiteboards, projection system, smart board. Bigger than a group study room, but smaller than
Then that's right.
About
this.
half of this room.
Yeah. Must have. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, that's what we need, a conference room with a cafe. Would be nice. Not essential, don't include. Group study rooms, seating 4 to 6. Group study, must have. Would be nice. Not essential. Done. Homework center. Could be supervised, maybe not. Place where kids sign in. I'm thinking of like that Cypress Center, bank of computers, some study tables, maybe a small 500 volume, hands-on collection, maybe textbooks. They were very popular for a long time. Somebody said earlier the kids don't come to the library after school, they go home or they go to homework centers. You could have a homework center here. Must have. Would be nice. 5, that looks like it. Non-central room. A large meeting room. This size, bigger, the 100-seat meeting room. This is a 60-seat meeting room. Must have. 7, 8, 9. Would be nice. All right. Oh my. Let's fed the questions here. How about a local history room or a local history section? Must have. Would be nice. Not essential. That's it. Outdoor areas, outdoor reading areas, program areas, must have.
The like seating area?
Somebody talked about that a lot at the last meeting. That young man, who I think was an architect.
really good.
He's camping.
Just scare me. No, he said he can come too.
Would be nice.
I think he sent some.
3, okay. A quiet reading room, must have.
We don't need that.
7, 8.
Should we get some seniors in here from out there and ask?
Would be nice.
Maybe call it the library.
Okay. More reader seats. More seats for the public, must have.
What's a reader seat?
A chair, a comfortable chair.
Comfortable
Oh, we
seating.
gotta have comfortable chairs.
I think more comfortable chairs would be nice. Okay. I'll put self-service checkout on here, but you already have it. You have 3 already.
You'll have some.
So I'm just going to say that's a must-have, because you're not going to have that since you already do. A separate children's room, must-have.
Separate?
Well, separated. How about acoustically separated? Let's take the vote again. Must-have. Is this an unanimous? This is the first one. No, you're not on, you are. It's 10 Storytime area. Again, you don't actually have that now, do you?
They do it in here.
You do it in here. So this would be a separate storytime area. Must have.
Usually in the kids area.
Yeah, off the kids area. 1, 4. Would be nice. 6, that's it. A teen area, yeah, I have it.
And,
Must have.
How's that different from homework?
There ain't no homework going on in that teen area. There's conversation. You actually don't have computers in your teen area.
Will they bring their laptop?
Yeah, but a homework center would have fixed computers and printers and programs loaded on there. It seemed very well behaved in there. Lots of nice, quiet conversation and some reading, actually reading going on, which is nice. The other one is now that's new is the tween area. Tween, like the 5th, 6th, 7th. Because once the 5th and 6th graders move into the teen area, the teens stop coming. So the teens don't want to be with the little kids, and the bigger little kids don't want to be with the little kids. So they take over the teen area. So the new concept is called the tween area, which isn't quite as big, but it's something that you can manage. I didn't have that on the list, but it's something definitely to think about. And then tutoring carols. Do you have a literacy program here?
You don't,
You do not.
you do like.
But I noticed that the carols here are very popular. And does any tutoring happen here?
Yes.
Where does that happen?
just like out of the tables.
Okay. So, do you think that's something you must have, tutoring, Carols? Who thinks must have?
Is that different from homework center?
Yeah, very much. It's because he's talking over the...
Well, there is tutoring going on, so might as well acknowledge its reality.
Okay.
Say, would be nice at least.
Okay, how about must have?
Is the tutoring that's taking place here, is it where someone is paying someone and they meet at the library? You know, I think all these things sound so wonderful. And I just have this question in my mind. I went to the library as a child. My grandfather took me 3 times a week. And then my treat was if I read the books he bought me, he'd take me to Alhambra bookstore and I could pick out a book on Saturday night. But when we went to the library, you know, the library was the quiet place you went and you got a book. Now, I know we want a gathering, you know, space for the library. It just seems like, when actually did, you know, the library become like the cure-all for everything? You know, it's the homework center, it's the, you know, the meeting room, because that, the cafe, the whole thing.
Oh, about 1994 probably.
Yeah. So, you know, like,
school budgets got cut because schools used to be open after school and kids could hang out there. The school library would be open till 5. School ends at 2:30 now. That school library is closed at 2:32. There are fewer athletic programs. There's more two people working in the family, and they don't necessarily want the kids to come home to an empty house, so they tell them to go to the library until 5 o'clock. It's part economic, a lot to do with what's happened in the schools. I just made that number up, 1994, but it was a definite trend. And San Marino actually now has an ordinance that you cannot send anyone younger than 5th grade to the library alone, or they will be given to the police. There were like 4-year-olds dumped off by their kids.
That's a great rule, though.
For the day.
Because parents will dump their kids.
All day Saturday, there was a little boy in there, like a 5-year-old boy, and finally they figured out he wasn't with anybody.
Right.
The parents just dump him off and go. So,
Well, and the reason I just say that is, you know, having been in education for a long time, I definitely know the dilemma with, you know, funding in schools. And yet I have to say that, you know, being in the public sector for so long in numerous roles and in administration also, we say the schools don't have money. That administrators like to, and I know this is a political statement, but administrators like to say, well, we don't have money for, you know, the school libraries. But they have so much money that's, you know, given to programs. And let's use the new social studies program. Let's use the new, you know, after school study sheet. Program, and so much of it is so temporary. You know, they try it for a year and it doesn't work, so let's try another, you know, book series or a text series. It doesn't work, let's try another. If they just would put those monies into funding their libraries for the kids, because that's never going to go away. I mean, kids are always going to read, hopefully, and in this community, they read very much so. But I know, like, all these things sound so wonderful, and it's so, to me, it's like so much more than I could ever imagine a library to be. And I just wonder sometimes when we keep adding, you know, different things to the library, it's almost like, it almost becomes
The mall.
yeah.
I mean, and not the focus of reading and books, because in this community, for example, our businesses, so when we talk about having a business area, definitely meeting rooms, because we don't have that in the city, but when we've had businesses come together from our chamber for business watch to just be involved, there isn't a lot of people coming together for that. So like the literacy thing, you know, having books and trainings on literacy, to me seems so much more valuable. Yes, the cafe's nice and what have you, but you know, there's McDonald's you can drive through after, get a coffee, or, you know, I just hate to lose. Sometimes I think when we look at whatever it is we want, it's so hard to lose focus on really the fundamental value of what a library initially was. I mean, that's what I loved about the library. You know, it was a place I went, I could browse, pick a book. I wasn't looking to go to the cafe or, you know, but I know it's a different world that we live in, but we're so fast, you know, such a fast society that we're looking for the cure-all to go one place and get everything done.
Well, I feel like, I feel the opposite. I feel like once you get the patron in the library, you want to do everything you can to keep the patron in the library and have them be productive there. So if there needs to be a cafe in the library so they don't go to McDonald's, they can instead have a coffee and go right back to reading. Then we can have the patron use the library more. Because Temple City doesn't have a great central hangout except for this park and this library. If they want to go to the mall, they're going to go to Arcadia. So I really think we do need to capture people in Temple City, and this is one place to do it. And we have to put on our sort of Disneyland hats and figure out how can we get people to spend 4 hours in the library instead of 20 minutes.
Well, I think that's happening. I mean, from our statistics. If we look at our statistics, without the cafe and the you know, all the business things.
Well, you keep mentioning the cafe. I'm not big on the cafe.
Well, I mean, I'm just
We
saying,
don't have to have
you
a
know.
cafe.
Right.
So
I mean, it's nice. I would love to have a cafe and come and be, but I mean, I guess I just have a genuine concern that what a library has always been and what it was initially, you know, meant to be. And I think that's where I come to the table. I mean, people have different opinions, obviously, but what I would want for all the children in Temple City is, and you know, as they grow up and use a library at a young age and then progress, is to always know, you know, it's a place where you go for literacy, to read, to, you know, yes, come together to study. But I think oftentimes when you do have a homework center in your library, you're never going to service the amount of people that are going to use it. With all the homework places that we have in Temple City, I taught at one last year, after school center, and I can tell you that if a parent did not have to pay the $600 for an after-school program, they're going to be here at the after-school program in the library, and you're not going to be able to staff it. Mm-hmm. You're going to have a lot of angry residents wondering why you're not just, how do you even start selecting them?
Actually, that is a very interesting point, because your minimum guidelines do include a homework center, but I've noticed a falling off of that recently. I don't know if it's a staffing issue or if we had that as a guideline because it was in the California Bond Act in 2000, that libraries should have homework centers and have joint use projects with the schools. Yeah, we're in here then. But the projects from 2000 all had homework centers in.
When you say falling, what do you mean? That the library system stop including it when you build a new library, or you mean the few people who
Less. No, I'm
use it?
seeing less of them being built, and I think partly it's because everybody has portable devices too. So again, I would probably caution against a fixed in-place computer lab that would be used 2 or 3 hours a week maybe for classes, when you can take a room like this and take 20 laptops out of the cart and have a room. You don't have the luxury of having just-in-case spaces. This has to be prime real estate workhorse space that can be used many times a day for many different things. So for example, if there really was a need for a homework center, because this room doesn't have a glass wall, it would be very difficult to open this up unless it was monitored. You can't afford to monitor. But if you had a room like this with a glass wall and these tables, you could have made this a quiet homework center and say if kids wanted to study, they could come in here and study in the afternoon. But I haven't added a dedicated space. but I've made another use for a space, because this space does a lot of different things, but not 24/7, not when you're open. So, actually now, you raised a very interesting point, and I'm going to ask you all to take out a sheet that says Temple City Community Library Strategic Goals. It's right in front of the sheet that you just worked from. And this is a do it by yourself. There's 14 potential goals here for the library. And I don't think we're all going to agree, but I want you to pick your top 5 and rank them 1 to 5. I have to move off of this projector. Oh, this thing is blowing hot air.
So you want us to pick 5 out of
Pick
this?
5. So, I would say, all right, collections, early childhood, local history. These are goals. These are what you think the library should either be providing or working on.
Anybody did that?
So we can multiple ones, right?
1? You want to do all 1?
I picked like 6.
You can pick 6.
You just want 6?
Oh, I said 5, but she's already taken 6.
Well, because I'm trying to just kind of,
I'm just going to take this away and compile it, and I'll put it in my final report, that this was kind of the direction this committee was headed in. We're not doing strategic planning today, but I think your point is well taken. You can't really plan a building unless you have a vision for what it's going to do, what the services are that it's going to contain. So although we're visioning for a facility committee, I think we need to talk about the services and the goals, at least, so that we can move forward to the next step. We don't want you to be unhappy.
can I just ask a question? On the last one we did, the Temple City Library Visioning Facility Essentials, where you wanted us must-have. I did this with the things that I want in the library, knowing that I can't have all of these.
Right.
So maybe it should be more like, would you rather have this or that?
We're getting to that next.
Oh, okay, all right. No, I'm just saying.
But it
because-
was good that it seemed like the group was very much of the same mind. It wasn't 5-5, there were 7s and 3s and 2s and 8s. So the ones that got low were consistently low. So you'll see where I'm going with this.
I didn't know if it was shared before, but we do have a homework center and teen center at Lilo Park. Now, it's not as central as, where our library is. And I did ask our director, and it's mostly for, well, I guess, have you ever been, Cassandra?
It's like junior high and high school.
Yeah, it's junior high and high school.
That's what a homework center really is for, is junior high.
And
It's part of the STARS, isn't it?
I think it's part of the-
It's Teen Zone, which is.
yeah,
Parks
so
and
you
Rec.
don't have to be, I don't think you have to be a STARS member
No.
to
It's
go.
a separate teen zone.
But it's through the Parks and Rec.
Yeah, it's through the Parks and Rec, and I know it's widely used, but I don't think it's used as much as it could be. And I think it's probably that place where, that's something where possibly the city could help support is, we support it as far as like games and activities, but maybe we could support it with their favorite authors or books, and they could have, check out the city partnered somehow with the library too. They could possibly check them out there and return them there if they don't have access to coming to the library. So I think we could be creative with that.
Part of
homework
that's probably
center.
they cannot quite walk there.
I think.
Yeah.
Well, they do have, the city does through this, I think the STARS program, they have vans that will,
They take them down there.
they take them over.
But yeah, if you're not in STARS program, you just
Yeah.
like, it's too far to walk.
But we could expand our dial-a-ride.
I mean, these are the kinds of
So whereas
things.
here is quite walkable. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is within walking It's long, but it's walking distance from the high school.
Right.
Right.
It's walkable to here.
When we get to the next step, also, because you all represent the community, for example, this is a Civic Center project, and everyone said, yes, we should have that big 100-seat meeting room. What if there was another meeting room of that size in the project? That's a lot of space, that's 2,000 square feet of space, so would you, that's why when I said we're getting there, that it becomes almost an auction. Because if you're not building at the 0.5 square feet per capita, you're not at the 100% of the guidelines, so you can't be at 100% of any of the other numbers. You can't have the 2 reader seats or the 2.5 volumes. So there are decisions to be made. And frankly, with the cost of, I'm just going to, it's $1,000 a square foot for a new library now, counting the construction, the furniture, the equipment, the soft costs. That's the number. It's easy. You might get it for $950. You might pay $1,100. So the other issue to think about is if at the guideline you were at 29,000 square feet, you're talking about a $30 million project. Do we really need to do that? The model that I'm going to show you today, which is hypothetical but surprisingly matches much of what you just indicated, is for 21,000 square feet. And if you look at that and see how much more that is than what you have now, it's huge. And then maybe it could be 20,000 square feet. You worked on Manhattan Beach, right?
I reviewed it.
Okay, so the way it started out with Manhattan Beach was, I was their programmer, and we said, okay, by the guidelines, by your population, you should have 28,000 square feet. And somebody else said, well, how about 17,000 square feet? Because we have 12. You have 12, they have 12. So I did a 17,000, a 19,000, and a 23,000 square foot program. And they picked the modified 19. They went low, but it's a building that they can afford to maintain, to operate. There are plenty of collections, and the collections, as you can see on this wall out here, they come from other places. And we don't have a great crystal ball on collections anymore. We don't know if you need 150,000 volumes on the shelf in the future. My conjecture for you is 100,000. To go from 70 to 100 will be very nice. That will be a really nice, robust collection. So anyway, we'll get there, but you can't have it all. You definitely can't have it all. An art gallery, maybe you can hang art on some wall somewhere. A cafe, the problem with the cafes is who's going to run it, and if you can't guarantee volume, you won't get a vendor. Starbucks will want to know that you can guarantee 600,000 visits a year and cups of coffee, and unless people are coming in off the street and buying the coffee, they're going to close up in a year and pull out, and then you're going to have a coffee shop with nobody doing it. So homework center, maybe not, maybe something else. And what we look for in the auction part is, well, here's this great 20-seat conference room. Let's put in some bookcases, and then that's our local history room. So I don't need a local history room and a conference room.
Right, exactly.
So when you get to the end, but
Because a lot of these can double.
double and triple.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
there wasn't anything that anyone voted as non-essential. And not too many, only one thing is, I don't really need it. And I always think these like, their libraries are like turkeys. We just keep stuffing more and more and more in them. But nobody's willing to give anything up. So if I said, you want to add 6 new programs, what are you willing to give up? Everybody gave up their back magazines, and they gave up their microfilm, and they gave up their phone books. And that was the low-hanging fruit. There's nothing else anybody wants to give up. 8-track tapes, okay, that went too. And we got rid of our clipping files, but that's 3 file cabinets. But now, you come out and you say, well, look at all that print reference. You don't really need that anymore. Or, why do I need 5 people at the circ desk? I have 3 self-checks. And these people have had this conversation on every project we work on. Nobody wants to give anything up. And when I start off with like a renovation, okay, what are you willing to get rid of? I've got 10 librarians sitting there looking at me like, nothing. We're not giving up anything. So you end up with a project that you have to get a cheese shaver and make it smaller and smaller and smaller. It's like when you work on your house and you tell your contractor you want a closet, and he says, well, what are you going to use it for? You know, what's the closet for? Well, to fill it with stuff, all that stuff. So, just quickly, what was your number one? What's your number one?
Literacy.
Outreach.
Literacy.
I put early childhood literacy, number one.
We got an early childhood. How many had that in their top 5? Early childhood literacy.
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 No, there's two different literacy.
Yeah, there's early childhood and there's literacy. All right.
I have both.
Okay. Who had careers on their list? Nobody. Who had developed collections on their list?
You say collections or develop collections?
Oh, I have one.
Yeah.
Who had community center on their list? Okay. Culture and Arts Center. Nobody. There goes your gallery. Early Childhood Center. Facility. Safe and energy efficient, disabled accessible, well organized, comfortable, safe. Funding is probably not relevant to this project, although we could say seek funding for this capital project. Who has that as a strategic goal? Anybody? I'm going to put that too. I don't even know. A library is a center for learning. Literacy skills. Okay. Local history and culture. Not so much.
I had 6.
I have 6.
Who felt you needed to work on outreach? Highest quality of customer service. Staff. You have that already. Improve and expand technology, training and use of and access. Okay, so technology is usually in the top 5. Increase the number of volunteers. You have volunteers, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's because you're going to start volunteering. And youth services. Okay. I want to collect these sheets if you don't mind, if you'll tear it off. Okay, I'm going to just change the agenda slightly. Did any of you make a field trip this week or last week?
That's the month, I guess.
Anybody do a field trip? Well, let's have reports on the field trips. We gave out a list, we emailed out a list, right at the last meeting. Where did you go?
And I was just very, very impressed.
Which one? Which one?
San Marino. San Marino, I was very, very impressed. Jaw dropping. It was just so huge and had everything you can think of. Everything. And lots of light.
Lights,
Beautiful windows.
Yeah.
Windows everywhere.
tiles.
Where that library came from, from their old library to that one, it's
Unbelievable.
like the Taj Mahal next to it.
It's San Marino.
I hadn't been in.
Yeah, I mean, it fits San Marino now.
But it took
Yeah.
12 years.
Yeah.
And you said that's 72,000 square feet?
No, San Marino,
San Marino
San Marino is 20.
29. Cerritos is 72,000.
You know how much you spend on the San Marino library?
Yeah.
It's about 40, 20?
Well, they did it a while ago.
No, about 24 million, 23 million. I think they had to buy a little bit of land. Yeah.
It's been quite a few years now, so a little
No, it's been open
more
about,
money, a little bit more money now.
it was bid at a low time. And you took a field trip?
Well, we didn't all went together,
Okay.
and I was late coming in, but I would like to go if somebody knows. I think I wrote down,
We'll circulate the list again, because we have more people here today.
yeah.
And not everybody showed
I'd
up.
like
Be
to
nice
get
send
it
with
with all of us.
addresses.
That's a different question.
Okay,
I went,
Tomorrow?
I went to 2 libraries, the San Marino
Yeah.
and Monrovia. So out of the 2, I like Monrovia better.
yeah,
It seems like Monrovia have more tables and chairs along the walls.
lots, yeah,
A lot of windows.
yeah.
They're kind of the downtown, the Civic Center, they have the water fountain. And in the back, they have the playground. Kind of like what we have here in Temple City. floors. They have the community rooms. They have the children's side, they have beside the regular computers. They have the little station for the iPads. That's kind of nice.
Nice.
And I went to San Marino. I am impressed with the size, but they don't have that much tables and chairs versus Monrovia. See, my Monrovia is a little more friendly.
Looks family friendly from outside.
Right, and also inside.
And it's actually, Monrovia is smaller.
It is smaller, but the 29,000 for San Marino, it doesn't look like 29,000.
Yeah, there's a lot of nooks and crannies.
Right,
And there's also a second.
and I don't like the floors. When you walk on the floor, it's still a little wimpy.
Oh, really?
It's not solid.
Well, that's not good.
Seriously, I'm not sure Rita has the same feeling.
It feels squishy?
Yeah, it's not solid.
Oh, it's because it's a profile floor. The power and data run under the floor, and the floor sits on piers.
Oh, okay, I hear some noise when I walk out.
It's, right, this room is slab on grade, so
Right,
you're not
right.
solid cement. But when there's a profile floor, there's actually the slab, and then there's this much airspace with these piers that hold it up in squares.
Uh-huh.
So if it's a high profile floor, the heating, air conditioning, ventilating runs through there, plus power and data. If it's a low profile floor, it's the power and data, which means you can pop up a panel anywhere and change it out for an outlet. It shouldn't feel squishy though, unless it was.
Should not feel squishy.
It could feel hollow.
You feel hollow when you walk on it,
Is he speaking of
kind of the lovely flooring,
San Marino.
I thought it was very comfortable.
there's a little air under it.
Yeah.
He said it was squishy.
Huh.
Do you feel that when you walk
No, I
on the?
didn't. It felt very good to me.
Oh, okay.
It seems like whenever you drive past the one in Monrovia, and that park was pretty bad before they remodeled that, rebuilt that library. It was like scary,
Right.
weird out there, but that is, every time you go by there now, it's like that's the center of town, and there's kids playing, and there's family in the park, and there's
Yeah,
near
I
the fountain,
still-
and it's like the real community, center of their community is at that library. That library is really.
I went
Is that
around
Main
one time
Street?
and see the playground pretty full
Pardon?
yesterday.
Yes.
There's quite a lot of people.
I can see that here. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Then they have pretty much the same setting like we do here, downtown, the Civic Center, the fountain, we have the playground.
Yeah. No, it's very similar. And a little bit of retail.
We get a lot of out-of-town people here for this summer concert series.
Yeah.
And if they saw an outstanding library here, that they knew this was a destination place, I can go and find out about, they have a lot of programs here. This is a place I'll come back here and use this library. I mean, we're actually in County Arcadia where we live. We're on Temple City Boulevard. Arcadia is a city library.
Yes.
And even though we're Arcadia County, I can't use their library. I couldn't use their when my kids were little, I couldn't use I couldn't even bring my kids there to have the librarian read a book to them. Oh, no, you live in county, you can't use our programs. So
Right.
you can go to any county library. And so anybody who lives in a county, everybody can come here and use this library.
Right.
They're really particular.
Ouch.
Yeah.
It's 8:30 and we have two more things to do. So I want to walk you through this hypothetical 21,000 square foot library, just so you can get a sense of what you would get for that amount of space. And then I have a slideshow for your visual preference. Each slide is going to be up for 4 seconds. I'm going to give you an index card.
Okay, wait.
This one, it says library space square foot summary.
Square feet or down?
You? 12,185. When we go through the images, you're going to see shiny buildings, you're going to see buildings with wood, you're going to see buildings with a lot of light, you're going to see buildings with overstuffed chairs, you're going to see quiet study rooms. What I'm trying to get out of this activity is a vision. What do you like? What do you want your library to feel like? What do you want it to look like? So you're going to have 4 seconds on each slide. If you like what you see in an image, write the number down on your card. And then I will compile all the votes, and I'll send you a little slideshow of the top 10 looks that you like. Yeah.
This might sound really kind of silly, but is our goal to build a library where we want more usage? Or is our goal to build a library where the people that all need using it? Because it seems like it's overused. I mean, do we really want twice that many people? Do you know what I mean? I mean, do we want people to come from everywhere to use this library?
No, but
And make it that
your service
spectacular?
area is 55,000 and you only have 33,000 borrowers. So 60% of your residents don't use, 60% of your residents do use the library. We don't know from that 33,000 by zip code, some of them may live in other communities.
So we actually are trying to increase usage.
I don't necessarily think we're trying to increase use. I think we're trying to accommodate the community's needs. And there may be needs that aren't being met at all now.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily a goal to have people in here all day long. One thing we try to accommodate is the grab-and-go crowd. I don't have time to hang out. I've ordered my books online. I know they're on that shelf. I'm coming from work. You're closing in 15 minutes. I want a 15-minute express space. I pull in, I run in, I go to the self-check, and 5 minutes later I'm in my car on the way home. I'm as much of a user of the library as somebody who's parked in here for 6 hours. You know, in the same way that you have senior citizens who want to be here all day long. So whatever you do, your use will double. If you do it well, your use will triple. We look at the data for buildings like Monrovia, what they had before, and what their use is now. And the old Monrovia library was pretty crummy. Actually, the old San Marino library was pretty crummy too. Most of those libraries have increased their use by 300%, but the population of the community hasn't changed. This is not like Sacramento, where North Natomas had 50,000 people and now it has 400,000 people. Your population, if you look at it over the last 5 years, is really stable. So either 40% of your population is not using the library, or they're using other libraries. And we often find that from the non-users. Because this is a county system, if I work somewhere else, I may use the library that's most convenient for me. You did one of those GIS studies, didn't you, with the dots? All the patrons by where they live and where they go to the library. It was a couple of years ago. And you could see that people don't always use the library close. I know that the county does these studies when you're locating other businesses too. A lot of it has to do with where your car takes you during the day. So, no, I wouldn't say the goal is to make it busier. With 395,000 visits, that's pretty busy.
Yeah, okay.
It's pretty busy, yeah. But it's also pretty crowded, and it's not disabled accessible. And the tables are so jammed together here. There's no hope for her memory of sitting and quietly reading anywhere in this building.
We've outgrown it.
So what you would see is, if you have 36 chairs at tables for 4 now, and I say, okay, well, I'm recommending that you end up with 42. There'll be better tables, there'll be better chairs, they'll be spread out, there'll be more room, they'll have wireless access, the furniture will be more comfortable, and you'll have power. That's a county standard. You will have a place to plug in at every seat. So there's power at every seat, and there's wireless throughout the building. Yeah, so just, what I want to get to with this is, I'm not recommending a 29,000 square foot library for you. I feel that that would put you in a situation where the operating costs would skyrocket. And I don't think you're in a position to increase your operating costs by double. If you're operating 12,000 square feet now, and you know how many librarians that takes. 29,000 square feet is going to take a lot. So I picked a mid number. I picked a number like Manhattan Beach picked a number, and I said, well, let's just program it out and see what we can get in 21-2. So the way this program works is each space gets content. And this is a summary of like a 35-page report. But at the end, I know how big the spaces need to be and what the furniture and equipment is. So this is basically a space needs assessment.
Is this in a real library, or is this a?
No, I did this
technical
totally for you.
Oh,
This
wow.
is you, and it's based on your
Thank you.
collections and the percentage growth of your collections and the number of reader seats you have. So let's just start at the beginning. This is the adult collection area would have 2 group study rooms, and it would have substantially increased collections. Right now, you have 26,000 volumes in the adult collections, and that would increase to 57,000. The detail is on page 3. And the reader seats, right now you have 76 seats at tables, and it would increase it to 94. The marketplace, what we talked about, this would be a large open browsing area with the audio, visual, the DVDs, new books, a little bit of casual seating. The children's library would have collections that have increased from 22,000 to 39,000 volumes. So the children's collection isn't quite double, but it's close. The children's seating would be increased from, let's see how many we have now. 16 table, there would be lounge chairs, there would be parent-child chairs for 2. There would be a story time area for 40. Is 40 a good number for your smaller story times? How many?
We normally average, I think, around 30 to 50.
Okay, so 40
Public, yeah.
would be off the children's room. The next step up is into the larger meeting room. It would have the family place, and maybe not have a homework center. The homework center is in here for 540 square feet. So again, as we look at narrowing the numbers down a little bit, that was one thing that you said maybe you don't need. There's an information desk. There's a friend's book sale area. It's not a store, it's an area. And this amount of square footage will basically get you 8 single-face sections of shelving, which is this whole wall. That's about how much space that is. So when you get to the detailing, when you start working with the architect, you might say, well, I'd rather have that as an alcove so that I can man it, or I'd rather just have the few kiosks like we have now. But this is more than most friends get in libraries, except for Diamond Bar, which has a store. West Hollywood has a store. If you know the old model, you walk in the door and there'd be 3 or 4 sections of shelving. So this is halfway in between. In the meeting rooms, we have a 100-seat meeting room, which has a full kitchenette. And we have a 20-seat conference room that's flexible. It would have tables on wheels, high-end media equipment, and there would be a large storage room for the furniture for both of these spaces. So again, when we talked about the businesses, the 20-seat room is very useful. The 100-seat room, again, if we say we can't do 21,000, we can only do 20,000, is there another large meeting room in the project that could be shared?
Generally, when are these meeting rooms used? Daytime?
Always when the library is open, when there are programs. If there's no storytime room, that's when they're used. When there's lectures, you have a big event next Saturday. Some communities have programs every Saturday.
You needed to be flexible with this, with not fixed seats, right? It was just,
Right, not
you want
fixed seats.
multi-purpose. type of
It's a big
spaces.
multi-purpose room. It's hard to share them because if you have a book club that meets every Wednesday and you're sharing it with, say, the school district and they have it on Wednesday, it often can be the falling out of a good friendship of who books the meeting room. But for the time being, that's included in the 21,000 square feet. Public technology, that would be approximately, let's see, 12 PCs in this area. And not necessarily in a training lab, just the PCs. The reading lounge is kind of the quiet reading space, and the reading lounge has 10 tables for one, so 10 carrels and 8 lounge chairs. And you'll see some images of what that might look like. The back of house has the staff lounge, the workroom, the community library manager. There's a teen area with 1 group study room and about the same amount of seating that you have now. And then a tween area, which is smaller. So if you go to the 3rd page in the detail, the summary of this program is that it would have 150 reader seats, 40 PCs, and right now you have 12. So that's a huge increase. There would be 6 PCs in the teen area, 4 in the tween area, 6 in the children's area, 6 in the homework center, unless we take that out. This program has 160 meeting room seats. There's 100 in the community room, there's 20 in the conference room, and there's 40 in the story time room. And right now you have 65. So more than double the meeting room seats. This program, let me just, go ahead.
When you say, like they call us this table, and the number of seats at a table?
Yeah,
Okay.
so for example, the adult area has 32 table seats, 16 lounge.
Okay.
Group study room, 4, marketplace has 4, children's has 16 at tables, 6 PCs.
Okay.
So today you have 17 lounge chairs, this program has 42 lounge chairs. Today you have 76 seats at tables, this program has 94. Not as much of an increase in the tables for 4. The group study rooms pick up the slack because there's 3 group study rooms, and the lounge seats pick up the slack.
Where are you seeing today's numbers on here?
You're not, I just quickly counted when I got here today.
Oh.
I did have this count at home.
How did you get
Yeah, yeah. But this would be part of the report, that you currently have 57,000 items. And this program accommodates 122,000 items. Of that, 26,000 is media, and roughly 100,000 is volumes. And I felt like 100,000 volumes is not a bad number for a 21,000 square foot library. It's about 25% of the space, and what we look for in the programming is a balance. So, you know when a building is too dense, you walk in and it's a sea of stacks. You don't want that. You want a building that walks in, you can see in both directions, there's comfortable chairs, there's lots of natural light. Once you get past that 100,000, you're getting closer to the guideline, but we're not building to 29,000 square feet. So this is 21,000, which has pretty much everything that you talked about. A conference room, 3 group study rooms, the big meeting room, a story time room. It's not a lavish back of house, I'm sorry. It's a county standard tight back of house, but it's enough to run a building of this size. If the building got bigger, the back of house would have to get bigger. And if you look at the last column here, the non-assignable square feet, which is what gets us to 21,000. We've only programmed up to 15,000. The rest of that space is when you take the string and you run it all around the outside of the building, and everything inside the string is what you have to pay for. So there's thickness of walls, the vents, the door swings, the corridors, and then the rest of it you get to spread out. So you have some queuing space of desks, rooms outside of lobbies.
What's the occupancy of a building like this compared to the occupancy of the current facility?
The current facility has 76 and 17 is 93, 93 and 12 is 10 total. This is total table, lounge, and PCs.
I don't mean counting furniture, I mean like the occupancy limits.
It's usually done by space.
So what is?
I think this room is.
It says 100, but it's really not.
But it's not.
Yeah.
It's more
Or
like
room
about
without furniture is
40.
counted, divided, square footage by 7. Yeah, so whatever size this room is, It's about 700 square feet. Probably that's why that applies.
Yeah,
If you have a conference room, it's counted 15 square feet
per person.
per person.
I just had a couple quick comments. I've noticed in trying to schedule things at this library that it would be really nice if we had 2 conference rooms so you can have more than one event at a time. And that's such a big deal that I think if we're going to build a new library, we should think about having either a second conference room that's smaller. I don't think a smaller meeting room really does it. Like, you might have a big event, like a big kids thing, and then there might be a second presentation going on, like somebody giving it.
The divider walls have gotten better, much better. They don't come without cost. But in a project of this size, a really good divider wall might add $30,000. But a 100-seat meeting room with the right egress and access to the toilet rooms without having to go in and out of either one could make very nicely 250s. And if the 20-seat conference room is adjacent also to the bathrooms, you've almost got like a suite of meeting spaces.
Linda, do you think we can, this is actually not a small library, this one, the 21. Do you think we can, if we'll do 5, if this is slightly smaller than the 21?
Well, we just took out the homework center. So that 540 plus the markup takes out about 800 square feet.
Okay.
So now we're down to 20, we're down to 20,000.
And then if we can do a shared multi-purpose room between the agencies, so that would further reduce.
Or we can tighten up in another place. We can tighten up the marketplace. We can tighten up the collections.
It's a $20 million price tag. Is a big part.
Well, now that's the issue, is if you want to program to the dollars, if you want to program to the dollars, this program has not been scrutinized.
Right.
So I will go with the county library and they'll say, well, we don't want tween centers, 240 square feet out. I have 6 computers in the teen area, that's about 200 square feet. I don't see computers in the teen area anymore because the kids are bringing laptops, so that's another 2. It's very easy to get 21 down to 20. And if you said 19.5, there still is no pain. I mean, I don't think you would be felt one bit cheated if there were a few things that disappeared out of this program.
In terms of the site, are all these things under discussion, do they end up being 2-story? Are they 1-story?
I don't know that.
The plan we're looking at 2-story buildings, but there's no intent to make the library a 2-story building because they inherit inefficiency with a 2-story library. So the intent was to put library on one level and facing the park, with at least the initial concept of a cafe at the end, anchoring the Las Tunas side. We're pulling the building back so that the park is more accessible to the community. And earlier when I walked in, you were asking, how the library helped the business. The idea was also to involve the school district so that school district folks will move on this side. So both City Hall and the school district will be on the second level. Multi-purpose room, the first level, and the library on the first level. The other benefit of that is that, the school headquarters building really does not do our city any good. It's basically a phone exchange and how it started. Yeah, it does not do us any good. So we want to get rid of that building and turn it into retail, multi-purpose, multi-use space and bring this section of town. So the library in and of itself may not bring a lot of business, but this by being able to pull them over here and also like we have very successful program. And new buildings, new library, we think that this will really help the side of the city. So.
You can see this model at Diamond Bar. It's 2-story library, and each level is about 19,000 square feet. One is City Hall, and the other level, main level, is the library, and the large meeting rooms on the main level.
The other thing I want to mention is that this beautiful plan is missing my beautiful friend's bookstore.
Bookstore. If you want that on the table.
I think it should be on the table. I think if we're going to do a mega project, it's a big difference between having like the Friends raising $5,000 a year and $40,000 a year.
Yep.
I think you should think about that.
Okay, well, I'll change that 80 square feet into,
I'm not gonna be difficult about it, I was
$1,000.
mentioning it could be
Buildings
beneficial.
sometimes cost that much.
there's no reason not to have it in the program now. It's not to say that,
Equipment.
somebody want to turn off the lights, this is gonna go really fast. And if there's something you want to see again,
And do we just pick one?
just keep going. Every slide is going to have a big number on it. If you like that image, write the number down.
Just one or any?
All, anything you like, write the number.
Secret areas.
Anybody need the pen? Anybody need the pen?
I need another card.
Okay, here's
I have
cards.
my pen.
What are you supposed to do? Write on the card?
Any slide that you like the image of,
Write the number down.
write the number down.
Okay.
More than one card.
Many, you can write 200 numbers down. If you need another card, give a holler. And it's gonna go fast. Can we turn the,
Another light?
That's fine.
I mean, one everything.
This one should have.
Number 3,
Why not?
Temecula, Santa Monica, Sacramento. I forget.
Some other place.
Buena Vista, Burbank, very nice project. Cerritos. Alhambra. Camarillo. That's Anaheim. Orange, City of Orange, another very nice project. St. Paul, Minneapolis. Westlake Village. Hercules. Phoenix. Anaheim Branch, Haskett Branch. San Jose. You have that Mitchell, don't you? Belmont. This is Sorensen in South Louis. Santa Monica. Children's group study room. Rancho Cucamonga.
It's cheers and this.
Marina Bay, San Francisco. New York Public. Be Cozy Books. Have you seen that one? Isn't that fun? City of Orange, that's the entrance to the story time room. See him crawling in?
I was hoping the parents wouldn't have to crawl through
Orange
those.
trees.
Blue is bigger space, of course. Yeah.
This is a flexible story time room. It's not closed, it's open, so you can use it. This is Agora Hills. This is Agora Hills story time. Mission Viejo story time. That's Temecula. Just another crawl in.
This something.
LA City, that's a little teepee you can crawl in for a story time.
I think it's eating the children. Tustin's worth a visit if anyone's gone down to Orange County. Rancho Cucamonga. Haskett. Straightforward.
That's Alhambra.
What?
It's the famous Seattle Public Library. Huntington Beach, definitely worth a field trip. Nice library. More Tuscan.
That one's small, it's interesting.
Castaic, LA County Castaic. Messiness.
Wow.
Anaheim, it's the Children's Computer Lab, 50 computers. Very popular, these study booths. This is Walnut Creek. That's Huntington Beach,
Oh, where's that?
Camarillo.
It's on Hammer. That's cool.
I think trees were really popular right here. That's the puppet theater. It's a tree. It's pretty cool. Cerritos, life-size dinosaur and a lighthouse.
That's cool.
That's Anaheim. That's a remodel of the Anaheim Main Library.
Interesting bench.
Yeah.
Here's your chair and a half.
Cheers.
I love Sorensen. Yeah, that's the family place in Sorensen.
New ones.
East Los Angeles, anybody visited there? It's fabulous. First time you used color in a building. Stacks on wheels, great flexibility. Here's your outdoor reading garden. That's Buena Vista Library, they actually have a playground downstairs.
That's very good. That's cool.
Great. It's Rancho Cucamonga.
Check those out.
Yeah, right. Teen area, tables on wheels, chairs on wheels. This is a business center, this is what I was talking about. That's the business center at Walnut Creek. That's a nice one too, La Crescenta. That's LA downtown, the main library. Phoenix. This is the gaming center in the teen area at Fontana. You notice they all say out of order. Do not use out of order. There's some other ideas for acoustical isolation. Building a box around the teens, treating the glass so it's a little quiet. This is one of those tweens, the 7-8 place. This is at Anaheim, 7th and 8th graders. Some systems furniture, this is Herman Miller furniture that you can use to create little quiet study pods. No beanbags. I don't think it will. Bar stool height. This is Monrovia's teen area. You guys use this chair a lot. Use this in Castaic, the paperclip chair. This is Castaic, old Castaic. Teen group study room glass box, so you can see every square inch of what's going on in there. We're always looking for quiet in the quiet zones. Group study rooms like we talked about. Fireplace, we're going to go on a tour of fireplaces in California, libraries here. This is Mission Viejo. This is like the reading porch, looking out over Saddleback Mountain. Quiet study. That's Agora Hills. Another fireplace. Different way to handle the magazines. It's got some volume in this one.
Yeah.
Those are really popular, those tables for one. That's Seattle. Anybody visit Seattle Public Library? This is what you were talking about, the cafe. It's just a laptop bar. A lab that could be used as a training room. It's different kind of community rooms, bigger ones. Here's your cafe.
Bookstore.
Yeah, the cafe and friend's bookstore, there you go. This is the lobby of Cerritos, if you haven't been there before. That's their teen area.
Wow.
Still Cerritos.
That's the one you said was 79,000 or something.
That one you just looked at was Camarillo. This is City of Orange's new library. And then these are all kind of local history rooms that are also doubling as quiet and meeting rooms and reading rooms.
Where's this at?
You just were looking at the City of Orange and then Mission Viejo before that. This is the teen area. Just a couple more. That's Seattle. That's the carpet. It's photo printed carpet.
Yeah,
Anybody know East LA? This is Gloria Molino
Yeah.
with Cesar Chavez.
yeah.
Very colorful. It's really held up, that building too.
There's East LA still.
Yeah, you can tell the colors. The community picked the colors, the graphics. This is self-check, reserves, self-check. That's East LA self-check. Automated materials handling. That's one of those busy sorting machines that checks it in, puts it on a truck. Anyway. So what spoke to you? Wood, carpet, linoleum, sustainable design, cement? It's a lot more color than we used to see.
I like color too.
How about like the group study rooms, the glass walls? Those were nice.
I wasn't impressed with Seattle. I thought it was they had color, but I thought it was sterile. To me, it looked sterile. I guess because I like
It is.
wood and warmth in a place.
It's all about the
It's like, when I want to sit down and read a book, I want to sit down in a comfortable chair and read my book. I don't want to, I just thought it might be really famous, but I just thought it was really sterile.
One of the issues you see in a number of those projects, Seattle being one, the downtown urban libraries are overpopulated with homeless people. So we don't see upholstered furniture. It's all
Probably,
vinyl
so they
chairs,
can wipe it
neutral
down.
chairs. Everything has to be sponged off, washed off. County Library used to have a no upholstery policy, and that's changed fairly recently.
We couldn't have that same policy in the schools. We can't have couches or something because of lice.
Lice, yeah, or just smelly people,
Wow.
incontinent people. So that's a factor. Carpet is really good for the acoustics, though. I mean, there's a lot of fun with some of these children's rooms. Sometimes, though, you worry that the staff, you're just going to get tired of looking at that mural if it's too much. And that mural is there. And a lot of them are, like the one at La Crescenta, the community picked the mural. Did you know that one? It's a scary looking thing with the dead chicken coming out of a clown's mouth.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I even thought that teepee looked a little scary too. It looked like teeth hanging. It must have been, I'm not sure what it was hanging. That looked like, at first it looked like this.
Oh, the
angular-
teepee?
The teepee reminded me of teeth kind of biting against head.
Oh, because of the canopy at the top.
The canopy was kind of shaped a little.
Really good public art in that project. That's the Nordhoff branch of LACD. It's a nice SED branch. It kind of does make you want to go out and do some field trips, though. I mean, I look at I always pick the chairs up and turn them over and see who made them and check out the tables and.
I thought it was interesting that one had, rather than chairs of the children's
The
computers, they had the balance balls, which is actually good for attention, for kids with attention deficit problems. They're
Yeah.
actually,
Those are very
it's
heavy.
good for the core. to help them-
And they also have a slip cover. And the slip cover
Oh.
comes off. Those are all washable or replaceable.
cute.
Yeah, those are good. Very popular now. I don't know about the teen area, how deep you want to get into the lounge and furniture. I think beanbag chairs are a liability.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Every one of us who's ever had a teenager knows you don't want to have a beanbag
I've
chair.
noticed that our teens here tend to bring a couple laptops and actually work, or they play a game of chess, or they play that magic game with the cards.
So from what you just saw and then what we talked about this program, I think we will try to plug in a friend's store. I have a lot of ambiguity about the cafe, but what some libraries do is they just get a couple of vending machines. You get a hot coffee and a healthy snack and a cold drink vending machine, and then you don't have to worry about having a vendor. And if it doesn't work out, you take them out and you do something else with it. So you're not invested in commercial kitchens or health department issues.
Well, Vincent, in our P3 project, isn't there a proposed, like, commercial for like a coffee shop anyway, or?
Yeah, that's the one towards Las Tunas. Yeah, we're proposing that right now. But that's just, we're so preliminary at this stage.
Yeah.
And all the comments are so important from the study.
Well, the
So you're
friend,
not just rebooting this facility, it's like the whole
Right.
Civic Center.
citywide.
It seems too like the Friends store could sell items like, book covers or bags or something with a logo on it that knows, it's just something that people like, reusable bags or whatever, they love those things.
We're also allowed to sell little snacks that people can eat outside the library,
Yeah.
Peanuts
like healthy snacks.
The libraries are not so opposed to food and covered drinks anymore. Nobody enforces it. So what else have you seen in your travels? I feel like you would be very happy with 20,000 square feet. The collection really will be quite a nice increase, more than double on the collection. And in some areas, the reader seats wouldn't. The number of tables is the same, but there's more lounge seating in the group study rooms. You get the conference room, you get a better reading room.
I just wanted to share, I think, when you're planning collection space, one thing I want to mention is this is what they're going through at Caltech, at the Caltech libraries. What they're finding is that a lot of people prefer to get the digital copy of the book on their laptop or their tablet. So what they're doing is they're keeping 1 or 2 volumes of everything on hand. Everything else is going to storage. And they have less space than is allocated for collections. And there's more space for the other things we talked about, like meeting areas, multi-use space, small group meeting space, productive space where you can plug into a printer or scanner. That's the way Caltech's going. They've gone a little bit farther than I think the city would want to go. They actually have these shelves that are quite complicated to operate, the moving shelves. And you're supposed to go make sure you're not crushing anyone when you move the shelf. And
Oh, you want the high density
like
storage.
But,
High density. No,
This is not the model
consumption.
for a public
but
library.
no, but I have seen this. I have seen this. Like I told you, some people and their friends are quite senior, right? But surprisingly, they really like the electronic book because they can make the print really big. And the kids, surprisingly, the kids like that. Like we went on vacation to Japan. My son wanted to read this 900-page hardcover book. I checked it out for him. Just before we got on the flight, he said, "Daddy, could you check me out the e-book version? Because I'm not sure I want to carry this all through Japan." So he finished that book, and the next week I checked out, in Japan, I checked out from this library the next book electronically. He kept reading on the, because he was reading there in the Tokyo
And
subway.
then you don't have to return them, that's a great thing.
So,
Except it gets cut off.
Yeah,
If there's a kill switch, he only gets to keep it for 2.5 weeks.
right.
It's a good motivation.
Good
to
one,
read.
exactly, yeah, to finish.
Yeah.
so I guess sort of the subtext there is that this is the early stage of this trend. So remember, when you build a building, you typically are a commercial property you're building for at least, what, 50 years?
50 years.
Yeah. So think about the use model in the future is going to be probably even more digital. Now there's some science behind this. It's a lot less expensive to send someone electrons than it is to send them the protons and the neutrons, which are a lot heavier. So it's going this way, and I think the county's even looking at being able to check out tablets to people that are in the library. So you're still going to need collections, but the point is you might not need as many as some standard models based upon the past 5 years might suggest. That's what Caltech is finding. The reason I'm just sharing with you what one of the head librarians told me at Caltech when I was there over the summer.
I think community libraries are not quite as cutting edge necessarily as Caltech. We have to design a facility that works today as what it works 20, 30 years from now. And earlier, Linda, you mentioned about raised floor space. Those are probably very, at least good, we should consider those because that means that we can reconfigure space much easier.
Easily.
Yeah.
And for a new building, it doesn't make any sense not to do it that way.
Right.
It's not like a remodel, it's from scratch. So if you want a lot of natural light, you don't have to worry about punching holes in walls, you're gonna get your natural light. If you want some higher ceilings, if you want blank walls, so you can have your heritage exhibits. Children's area really needs more exhibit space. Very few walls here for children's things.
The project you're talking about, is this talking about a complete tear down of this building, or is it using part of this building and remodeling this building?
Ask the gentleman sitting next to you and the mayor.
I think it's,
And mayor.
We haven't totally decided. I suppose if the financing works out, and we're quite far away from getting that point yet. But if financing is there, we'd rather see a brand new building because that will have a lot more flexibility. And but if money is not there, perhaps we'll save this building and tear down City Hall.
Good.
Yeah, one thing I learned when I was in line for the cream signing at that event, I was next to the county person who developed sites, and he was talking about the Manhattan Beach property. He said, unfortunately, the Temple City site is a lot like the Manhattan Beach property, where you can't go second story because there's not the strength underneath because of that weird underground emergency area down there.
No, this building was never designed for a second
So
story.
they would need to tear down and totally rebuild the site, including the bottom part. That's what he was saying. And he said he used to work, he said he knew you. So
Yeah.
I don't know this guy's name, but we were in line for an extended period, and he felt compelled to tell me all these things. And, so it looks like you would have to basically, start over on this site if you did this program.
How old is this building?
About 50, 60
Yeah,
years.
it's used
It's
up.
time.
JFK was president, I think, it says outside.
Yeah.
It's time.
So the purpose of this series of meetings, obviously, there is some financing to be done, and in order to do financing, you need to know what you're financing and how much space is required. As parallel to us, the Civic Center Master Plan Committee has been working. So my question to you all really at the end of this is, do you think 20,000 is enough? feels pretty good to me, feels pretty complete. Is it too much?
Not to be difficult, but usually to make an intelligent choice, it's good to have A and B, so like, is there a B? And if this is sort of like one, is there a?
This
A
is
and B?
there's a very preliminary program.
No, I mean, what was the other proposed square footage for the building?
Oh, there wasn't one, and I thought I just picked a number out of the hat.
Yeah, but to make a good decision, I should compare two things. I mean,
Well, no, not really.
didn't
Either,
you start originally at the beginning talking about 27?
no, what I said was that according to the minimum guidelines for the county,
Oh.
based on your library service area, you would have a 29,000
Oh.
square foot building. But I didn't program towards a number, I programmed towards content. I worked on the collections, the reader seats, the children's area, the meeting room we talked about. I think you missed a lot of this by not being at the first meeting when we talked about the various spaces and the
I had a
constituents.
schedule conflict.
So I think 29,000 was never on the table, unless you have a donor who's going to write you a check for $30 million.
Even 20 might be a little hard to.
Right, I mean, clearly we've had some instructions before we cranked this out.
Yeah.
And what happened with Manhattan Beach was, we looked at a 24,000 square foot program for about 3 years, which basically killed the project for a very long time, and then we came back to the 19,000, and that's what's being built now.
You know what I noticed from looking at the slides, and I think it's helpful, is that the choice of the furniture really makes a difference as to how well the space is used. Because some of those really comfy seats that make you want to look like you could stay there forever, and how nice that would be, but there's not a lot of seating. When I looked at some of them, I'm like, oh, that's nice, but you can see maybe 6 people can sit in a very large space, and that's all they could sit unless you're going to sit on the floor.
Right.
So I think you can do a beautiful library and have it be as efficient at 20,000, 21,000 as you can at 26 if you didn't use your space efficiently.
Right, right. Well, 25% markup isn't a lot. Bathrooms have to come out of that as well, mechanical rooms, communications closets, etc. So there's always a push from the architect to take that 25% and make it 30%. Because the building functions better and it gives them a little more leeway. But if we were comfortable that this is going to be on 1 story, the 25 you can work with. Once you go to 2 stories, we've got to go to 30 or 35%, which means your program of 15,000 now has become 23,000 because you've got vertical transportation as well.
And your operating cost goes up because you have to staff 2 floors.
Right,
I guess the other question, you said you're going to put like city and school district on top?
That's assuming they would work with us.
Well, if you did that, doesn't that also set a square footage per floor requirement that you'd want to have something put into? Well, you're talking about having like 1 floor be the library, and you're saying we want X square foot because of the dollars. But if on the 2nd floor you're going to have the city or the district, well, the city or the district's going to want so much square foot. So that's also part of the square foot question.
Yeah, but they don't have to be the same size.
Yeah, they don't have to be the same, and then they don't have to exactly line up to be a box. I mean, the bottom can be wider, the top can be smaller, and maybe we can have balconies, verandas, and, you know, at this stage, I would not limit our imagination to what it may be. I would rather focus on the program, what we truly need.
Okay.
It's a parallel effort. We also will be bringing back to the city council an amendment to do a needs assessment for both city hall as well as the unified school district as well. As a matter of fact, the city offers the school district that we will pick up the tab for that. We want to bring them to the table because we really feel that having an open, inviting building across the street is important to our city. So we're willing to pick up that tab.
But that switching building is so retro 50s. It's really
I'm going to collect these cards. You will all get an email from Giselle with the images. You want us to send out that field trip list again?
Yes, I'd like to.
Yeah.
And the